This is a story from Luke chapter 24. Jesus was killed on a Friday. And on the following Sunday, 2 of Jesus' followers were walking from Jerusalem to a nearby village. And as they walked along, they were talking about all the things that had happened, and Jesus came and joined them as they were walking along, although they didn't know it was Jesus. And he said to them, "You look very serious. You're sad. What are you talking about?" And they said, "Are you the only person who hasn't heard about what's happened?" And Jesus said, "Why? What's happened?" And they told him, Jesus of Nazareth. He was a person from God. He taught us about God. He showed us what God was like. But then some of the religious leaders, they had him arrested and killed. We thought that he might be the person who would rescue us from the Romans. But the thing was, this morning, some of the women from our group went to the tomb where he was buried, but his body wasn't there. And then they said they saw 2 angels who said that Jesus was alive. Well, the men didn't believe them, so some of them went and they found the tomb just as the women had said. And then Jesus said to them, "Don't you remember from the Bible how God's Son would have to die and that he would rise again in 3 days?" And he began to talk with them from the Bible about where these verses were from. By then it was getting dark and they were arriving at the village, and so they asked Jesus if he would want to stay overnight with them. And that night, when they were having a meal together, Jesus took some bread and he gave thanks to God for it, and then he broke it. And then they recognised him as being Jesus. But then he disappeared. So the 2 men quickly went back to Jerusalem and they met up with Jesus' other followers. And when they arrived, they said, "Jesus is alive. He's appeared also to Simon." And then the 2 told the others about how Jesus had met them on the road, although they didn't know it was him, but they'd recognised him when he broke bread. And just then, Jesus appeared to the whole group together. And he said to them, "Don't be afraid. I'm not a ghost. See, ghosts don't have flesh and blood as I do. Look at my hands and my feet. I'm not a ghost. Have you got anything that I can eat?" So they gave him some fish. And to show them that he really wasn't a ghost, he ate the fish before them. And then he began to teach them from the Bible about how he, as the Son of God, had to die and would rise again. And they began to understand all the things that he'd been teaching them when he was alive. And then he said to them, "You know, you've seen these things. You're witnesses to what I have said and what I have done. You know how I forgive sins and how I bring people back to God. I want you to go and tell other people about this and about me. And I will give you my Spirit to enable you to do this. You'll have power to do it." And when he finished speaking all these things to them, he disappeared.